Hey, it's Soul, and this is Warcraft Weekly. Looking forward to the next patch because it means we're that much closer to housing. Anyway, you can help support the channel by liking this video, subscribing for more WoW coverage, and catch me live where I'm streaming. We're going to get right into the main thing. What did you think of Season 2? Now, if you want, you can pause the video right now and then start typing away. Then you can listen to my own commentary on the subject. Like, really, go ahead and come back. I'll be waiting. Okay, so how about we lay down some facts? Patch 11.1 dropped the week of February 25th. 11.2 is going to drop next week, August 5th, making the patch, or the season length, or however you want to mark it, last 23 weeks, or a bit under 5.5 months. Season 2 of The War Within is also, without question, the most event-filled season in modern WoW history. The base patch had the new zone and the big 4 content, raids, PvP, dungeons, and delves, and then the events started rolling in during the mid-patches, starting with Nightfall, then the Turbo Boost to Horrific Visions and the Arathi Story and Lorewalking and Overcharged Delves, to Dastardly Duos and the Collector's Bounty and Goblin Emissary event, overlapping with Turbulent Timeways and the Winds of Mysterious Fortune, which actually happened twice this season. The first was around May as well. Of course, just because there was a lot of stuff to do, it doesn't mean everyone participated in everything 100%. Like, how many of you shifted bandwidth so you can get all the mounts from the Collector's Bounty event, or you skipped out entirely on Horrific Visions, or you waited until the nerfs came to Nightfall? Who's still farming up Darkfuse and Mechanica for those mounts as well? Some people loved how this all played out because there was always something to do. Some are making a quality versus quantity argument, especially once we dive into how we might feel about these shifts and events happening throughout Season 2. I don't think it's a bad argument either. It sure felt like some activities were more well thought out and implemented than others, and of course there were bugs that spoiled some of those early experiences. Over the past few months, I've been encouraging you all to take a step back and look at this entire spread. Now, it's still a little bit early, but now that we have some proper hindsight, it's clear to me, and Blizzard straight up said they're not going to be so heavy-handed about funneling players into certain activities specifically for player power. Instead, they want to just give gamers lots of options to fill their time and then let them do what they want, including to not participate in some of these things. Embracing more and more that feeling of having a theme park MMO. For the folks who loathe the features that aren't in their wheelhouse and think these other features are a waste of time, it's probably not the approach that they prefer. This philosophy, though, it's kind of the opposite of how things were during the pre-Dragonflight eras, with long-term grinds for both cosmetics and player power. Blizzard had to add in some of these side grinds like Torghast and Azerite Essence upgrades, which, compared to Nightfall, was super required, and it needed participation for a significant chunk of the season. Notice how these days, while there's still plenty of grinds for cosmetics, getting folks the more gimmicky tools for endgame, they're kind of being handed out, and then folks can start pushing higher level keys and delves and raids and so on. The best examples we can make from more recent times would be Cersei Circlet and the Overcharged Delve Belt. It's not what I would call a large time-consuming commitment. I think this approach makes sense though, because power is fleeting, cosmetics are forever. Taking too long for gamers to have the tools they need has pretty clear consequences, and we saw that a lot during this borrowed power era. Cosmetic farms, they're much more varied too. Like the likes of Nightfall were self-contained, and players could immediately dive in for transmog and catch-up. The Collector's Bounty event tapped into the years-old farming grudge and got relief-seeking players to jump back in, while Dastardly Duos, sadly, that didn't really land. But actually, you know what? Let's circle back a bit and sort of a tier list what we got in Season 2, from the blah stuff to the, hey, we need to bring this back again kind of tier. And Duos, it felt exceptionally at the bottom of this list. What's funny is it didn't have to be so poorly received if they just did one thing, or if they didn't do one thing, and that was to try and make the whole thing solo friendly at the last minute. That's how it seemed to me, at least. Like, when they first talked about Dastardly Duos, the vibe I got was we had to go in as a party, as a group. There was no mention of going solo in the article. Not long before it launched, though, the one-man design team for Duo said this in a behind-the-scenes trailer.
When we first started building Dastardly Duos, it was group-only content, and in the back of my mind, I knew that that was like a real blind spot for us. But we were able to use the follower bots
They're what I see as multiple points of failure for duos. Like having only one person design it, that was a decision. They made it solo friendly in the middle of development without factoring in how you basically needed to have a player controlled tank in order to get a high score, which was the whole point of the thing. I think if they left it in as a group-only activity, yeah, the complaints would shift towards solo player accessibility, and it still might not have been fun. But going into a game mode and phoning it in because there's no way you can control the battlefield, it gives this really helpless and icky feeling. The rewards, of course, could have been better, and we could always say that. Probably the worst thing, though, is that Blizzard launched this with a lot of confidence with behind-the-scenes looks and bringing in talent like Platinum WoW and top raid guilds for... Well, anyway, I'm not here for a bitch session. There's going to be a lot more to touch on, and, there had to be a worst. In my opinion, Duos was unfortunately the worst of it. Moving up a tier are the things that have to be in the season, but I do at least have a few comments. I did like the raid around track a lot. It does unfortunately suffer the double-edged sword of transparency. Every week we don't have that thing that we really want is another week of absolute agony, something, time gating, delayed release, whatever. The rewards are very cool though. There's a lot to say about the zone grinds like the trench coat, but at least the dino mount, that was a cinch to get. It's a fair take when we identify something that we want that's behind a really ridiculous grind, but it's also fair to say that there's a lot of cool things to find that are very accessible. Variety and compromise, I think it always wins out. I can't say much about Mythic Plus, but from listening, it felt loads better than the Gauntlet that was Season 1, and Season 3 aims to feel just as accessible after some recent changes ahead of this patch. Delves had a bit of a rocky start with the introduction of Tank Brand, remember that, and how I totally ruined it, but it's since gotten better, and the feeling of maxing out hero track gear and unlocking mythic appearances, it's been very well received. Let's move on to the boosty events. Nightfall had a pretty embarrassing launch with the numerous visual bugs, and it took some crazy, like SoulSoBreezy levels of copium to power through and finish off getting those appearances, let alone do the rep grind super early. But since then, after all the early fixes, it's been an early stop for freshly leveled characters to get some starter epics. Meanwhile, y'all know I was a huge fan of Horrific Visions back during BFA, and now as well. But for some, it still proved to be too challenging after moving on from high-level delves. For others, while we've seen repeat events, 5 years between Horrific Visions, it's not long enough. Skeptics who've tried, though, at least give the new version credit for doing away with the grind for keys and the satisfaction of using the masks to our advantage. Overcharged Delves was good, but the timing seemed kind of weird, like it came off as more of an experiment than a feature that landed at a good time for the season. Like instead of a hard start date late in the season, maybe the idea of Overcharged Delves should come as we get so far into the season journey, and then boom, we unlock this, these additional layers of complexity and perks alongside it. Thinking back, I think it's the belt that had to make Overcharged Delves feel like a very soft and easy thing to get into and upgrade, which gave that chore-like feeling. And those lessons are being reflected in the next patch. The Rishi wraps are going to feel almost passive to develop. But I can see in the future, as we get so far into the Delve season track, boom, we can unlock this new mode. It's a little bit more tougher, more complex, and we can grind for perks and power-ups specific to Delves, just like now, but there's no belt. That way, it might feel like a path that pure Delve people can go down without anyone else feeling like they have to do it, unless there's a really cool mount at the end and then everyone gets mad. The Turbo Boost ranks higher in the Boosty event category though. Unlocking the Crest Cap is something that's been happening, so it had to happen here. However, Blizzard went all out, which they didn't have to do, and I think it was pretty damn smart, even if the execution was flawed, so I hope that they've learned a few lessons. Turbo Boost was basically Blizzard saying, screw the whole item level bloat, let's just have some fun and we'll pick up the pieces later. Yes, it extended what people saw as the gear grind multiplied by however many ults they had. Pushing the goalpost back like that can feel really jarring, and I can understand that. But it's not a gear reset. It's not like keys and raids got harder alongside them. So this also opened the door to progress further. There's that satisfaction of, okay, we can get more bosses down. We can take that key level a little bit higher. I'm still mixed on the puzzling cartel chips though. I've been saying the whole time that I don't think they should do this unless it's the last season of the expansion because, well, apparently there's a different approach when it's only the second season. For the most part, it's Blizzard's fault at first for not communicating these changes soon enough. I actually wonder if the debate and backlash over this contributed to how Skarzard, one of the developers reportedly involved with the Turbo Boost, how he burned out and left just recently. I mean, I don't know, but the thought crossed my mind. Hiccups aside though, I think the Turbo Boost worked out really well as an opportunity to push a little bit further without feeling like we have to replace all of our gear. It's to a point where, yeah, I think they should do it again for this upcoming season, which, if we follow the Season 2 pattern, it might start the week of October 21st. I'm going to guess like a few weeks after 11.2.5 launches. We know of things that are coming out, but no clue how this is all going to dance together, so what we learn in the coming weeks is going to be pretty exciting. Returning events are just cool. Perfect Visions don't quite fit here because, that had its own progression kind of thing going on. Like, it doesn't work as a recurring thing. And the Goblin Emissary event, that was more like a yearly holiday. They just scheduled it differently because of reasons, I guess. When I'm talking about returning events, I'm talking about the Winds buff, the Turbulent Time Waste thing, and the Collector's Bounty, which were big wins. The not-so-secret is in its simplicity. Nothing new is being introduced, it's what we already do under a different wrapper, timed in a way to make it feel like a bonus. It's just more XP, higher loot drop rates, farms that are easy to jump into, and vendors to buy cool stuff. It's not a renown track, it's not a system that takes very long to figure out. And there's no reason for Lorewalking to be on top. In fact, it doesn't exactly fit into the paradigm of, what's in a season. It's just a feature that happens to drop during Season 2. I also gotta confess, I haven't done Lorewalking at all, beyond a little testing on the PTR months ago, but that's also the beauty of it. I'm not rushed into it, there's no FOMO, it's purely enrichment with some fun rewards at the end. And the reception I have been hearing over it has been very positive. We got hints of at least one additional scenario floating around, so Blizzard's already looking to make this feature grow as we get more patches. Many, including myself, are speculating this is part of WoW's initiative of trying to improve the leveling and storytelling experience, which right now feels pretty disjointed. It doesn't help new players learn about Warcraft in a cohesive way, and the feedback between leveling speed and satisfying gameplay while leveling continues to clash. It's a bit too early to tell where Lorewalking is going, but it's got a lot of potential to be a space where players can pick up bite-sized moments of important storytelling while getting that 20th alt up to do profession cooldowns or something. I can see how some would think Season 2 was a bit too short or too packed because they couldn't get everything done before the next season, but I bet most folks would agree if I were to say Season 2 felt kind of long. 5.5 months is a pretty straightforward season length in WoW speak, but it felt long because there was constantly something to do. You clear one goal and then two more pop up in its place, so that feeling of being done and resting for the remainder of the season, that was harder to achieve this time around. That's only one viewpoint though. As players, we're not obligated to participate in all of these some things to do. A lot of it was evergreen. Some features and events they felt way more important than others. So the wait time between desired activities, that felt longer, and it was underlined by the presence of these undesired activities. Like, how many times have you seen or heard someone talk about this or that being a waste of dev time, especially lately? I've been watching the feedback over the past few months, and while there's always someone bitching about something, it's hard to argue this World of Warcraft of ours has been pretty lively between here and Classic, and everything we're looking forward to in the near future. These days, WoW's a party train. We've been getting off and on, and next week we're switching to a new track in space. That's the show, but it goes without saying, next week's gonna be wild. There's the patch dropping, of course. There's gonna be another Twitch drop happening. This time it's for a purple panda. Blizzard also gave me some mounts to do giveaways for, so we're gonna have some long streams starting Tuesday during the extended downtime. So come hang, maybe you'll get some prizes, and of course stick around here on the channel for small guides to help you navigate through what's actually happening during the patch, ways to gear up, and more. Let's give a shout out to all y'all who've been watching the live streams, our awesome patrons, and of course, you, viewer, you made it to the end, you fed the algorithm. So please, like the video, subscribe for more stuff, and I'll see you for the next thing. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.